Next, let's go for you to the United States, where later on today we are expecting a press conference by the Secretary of Homeland Security. This as the city of Minneapolis reels from the killing of a woman at point-blank range by an ICE immigration officer. Footage shows the 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good apparently trying to drive away when she was shot 3 times. That's the footage you're looking at there. Now, as news of the shooting began to spread, thousands of people took to the streets of Minneapolis last night. There are, though, tensions again in Minneapolis today. You're looking at live footage now from the city, some confrontation there you can see between officers and members of the public. Our report is by Gabrielle Nadler.
Protests on the streets of Minnesota after a new shooting in a politically divided America. A US Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in her vehicle in Minneapolis on Wednesday.
To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want.
The shooting comes amid an immigration crackdown in the city, one of many to see increased ICE presence under the Trump administration. The city's mayor wasn't pulling punches.
This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
US President Donald Trump and his administration are defending the officer. Kristi Noem, US Homeland Security Secretary, said the deceased woman's actions prior to the shooting were domestic terrorism.
Secretary Noem, Mayor Frey called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that?
I say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training.
The administration was clear that ICE's operations in the city would continue. That's unlikely to quell the protests or prevent further clashes between officers and demonstrators who want them gone.
Well, to discuss what happened then in Minneapolis and some of the repercussions, I'm pleased to welcome to the programme live now Ernesto Castañeda. He is the founding director of the Immigration Lab and the director of the Center for Latin American and Latino Studies at the American University in Washington, D.C. Hello to you, and thank you for speaking to us.
Hello, Nadia. Thank you.
Can I just ask you, first of all, for your reaction when you saw that footage? I mean, it's pretty graphic, isn't it?
It is. It's unfortunate. There were a lot of bystanders, a lot of people protesting, a lot of people blowing their whistles to let the neighbors know that there was a heavy ICE presence in the neighborhood. So because of that, a lot of people were filming this from different angles. And then a lot of the neighbors that were looking at this from their windows were also able to talk to the media later and communicate what happened. And it's very unfortunate. It's very sad because it was an innocent person. She was unarmed. And the worst part here is that by all lights, it seems that this shooting was unnecessary, that it was an excessive use of force from this agent.
Yeah, and as you say, the woman who's been killed was unarmed. Nonetheless, though, the Secretary of Homeland Security, as we saw in our report there, described this as an act of domestic terrorism. How does she justify that?
That claim seems exaggerated. We don't know anything about the background from this person. According to the people that know her, she was a very nice person, a civilian. If anything, she was probably being part of civil disobedience. That is peaceful protest. There's a long history of that in the U.S. Since the 1960s. There's a lot of history of that in Minneapolis, where George Floyd was killed a few blocks from where this incident happened. As we saw yesterday, there were a lot of protests, a lot of people shouting things at the agents, but the protests were, for the most part, peaceful, or they were damaging property, but there were no physical attacks against any agents. As you know, there's a lot of guns in America, and none of the protesters use any firepower against the issues. So this is not an issue of terrorism. This is an issue of citizens protecting their immigrant neighbors and being against the sudden presence of over 2,000 federal agents that showed after taunting messages on social media, for example, saying good morning in Minneapolis, announcing the largest raid in history.
Yes, and as you mentioned, this killing took place really not far at all from where George Floyd was murdered by a police officer back in 2020. That, of course, sparked a mass movement, an anti-racist movement, a anti-police movement as well. We just saw live footage a few moments ago of fresh anger today on the streets of Minneapolis. Do you think we're going to see sort of wider unrest now, more protests against ICE and against Donald Trump?
Well, yeah, this unfortunate event reminded the community in Minneapolis about the excessive use of force from agents of the state, right, from police forces. In that case against George Floyd, it was local police. Since then, it's been some years since then, there's been a lot of effort from the mayor, from the chief of police, and from police officers to improve their relations with the community and to decrease their use of violence and profiling as they interact, especially with African American and communities of color. So while that situation was improving, then suddenly you have ACE agents, Border Patrol agents, and other federal agents that maybe have not been properly trained in de-escalation, in community policing, in facing these protesters in such a violent way. We also saw video yesterday of officers shooting gas canisters very close to people's faces to try to have them dissipate when they were just protesting their disgust at the killing of their neighbor. So yes, I expect the protests to continue, the marches, but there were also people yesterday singing in the streets, pastors calming people down. And we saw a strong language from the mayor, from the chief of police, from the governor of Minnesota, asking for justice, asking ICE to leave the city, but also asking all the citizens and residents of Minneapolis to remain calm and to avoid any violent confrontation that could escalate things and make things worse.
And look, just a final question for you. This has been the 9th ICE shooting since September of last year. 2 of those, I believe at least, were fatal shootings. Do you think ICE has changed how it operates under the Trump administration? Has it become emboldened now?
Excellent question, Nadia. Yes, unfortunately, this is not the first time this happens. They have killed people, Latinos, that they presume to be undocumented immigrants. And if they drove away, a couple of them have been shot and there have been other casualties. Also, people in detention have died. So this quote-unquote war on immigrants is not a war without casualties. And whether ICE has learned from these lessons and has escalated and improved their policing and the way they actually track and find dangerous individuals, not just random community members. Things have gotten worse, actually, by words like that from the Secretary of Homeland Security. It emboldens them to continue this, and they are sending more people, sometimes protected by National Guards or the Marines in the case of LA. And it's going to get worse because there's more funding coming down the line for them to quickly hire more agents and have this larger number of people being deployed at the same time, which is only a recipe for more escalation. A lot of people have been warning that this was meant to happen. So unless there's direction from the White House to change tactics, things are going to continue like this for a while.
All right. Ernesto Castañeda from the Center of Latin American and Latino Studies at the American University in DC. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.